Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome back to Inside the Lines. We got a ton of picks for today to get us kick-started for the weekend. If anyone's keeping up with my turning $20 into $500, we had a very big night last night from our guy Bam Adebayo. So now we're up to 67. So we need some good plus money plays. If anyone has any in the chat, I am all ears. All right, let's get into the recap here with the boys. Again, another profitable night here. Pretty solid week so far from the crew. Bam rocking it for us. Siakam rocking it for us. Schroeder also playing very, very well for the Nets here. We got a lot of baseball to get into today, right, Jake?
A lot of baseball with Friday. It's pretty crazy in college baseball today. So the lines have over-adjusted in a lot of books, and there's a wide margin too. If you are big in the middling, there's some of these lines are like 17.5 on DraftKings and 12.5 in other books like the TCU game, which is pretty crazy. So if you're in the middling and you have people in other states that could bet for you, and you're in the Hard Rock or anything, and it's a pretty good opportunity to make some money there.
Yeah, that is a very niche group of people that are middling and have people in other states to make bets, but we might as well throw it out for them. All right, before we get into today's NBA slate, we got a ton of baseball picks from Jake. Steven, I'll send you to the chat in case we have any NBA questions we want to get ahead of. All right, let's start here with Virginia. Actually, first question. Friday, this is a big college baseball day, right? We see a lot of stars come out.
Yeah, Friday is usually when teams throw their best pitchers, and it's when most series start.
All right, let's get started with this series here. Virginia Tech, Notre Dame. In my head, those are two pretty competitive college baseball teams. Is that correct?
They're like mid-level, I guess, but it's still the ACC. Notre Dame was good a couple of years ago. Then their coach, Link Jarrett, went to FSU, but they're still decent. They're not bad, but one thing that they haven't been as good at is pitching. And this line, I think, is just over-adjusted for Friday night unders, where you would normally see this at like 13.5, but due to trends, it's at 10.5. So I think there's some value on the over here. I think we have this at 13.
All right. Yeah, that's pretty solid value. We'll move over to another over. We're taking on the runs here with Pittsburgh and North Carolina.
Yeah, another one where Pittsburgh, this actually just moved to 11, but I still think there's some value there. Pittsburgh's pitching isn't great. North Carolina is a really good hitting team with Vance Honeycutt, a lot of sluggers on that team. I think 10 was too low. 11's better, but I still think there's some value on the over there.
All right, let's move on here. Let's go over to an under with your Florida Gators playing St. Mary's.
Yeah, this is at 12.5 now, so you're getting better value at minus 105. I still think the Gators have been a bit of an over team. They're usually an under team. I just think it's just the early season, just getting acclimated. As the season goes on, I think they'll settle in. They're finding the right pitching combinations, and St. Mary's has been an under team in our database in the last couple of years. So it just depends if St. Mary's can limit the Gators' bats. I think Gators pitching should be better today. Kate Fisher's settling down. He was a little better at last start than he was his first start where he got killed by St. John's, but I think 12.5 is a little high here.
Okay. I can't disagree because I don't know anything. All right, let's move on to Texas Tech, taking the money line here.
Yeah, Texas Tech, money line against Texas. It's a rivalry, first game of Big 12 play. Texas Tech, I think, has the advantage when it comes to hitting. Texas is usually the historically better pitching team, but their pitching has been a little inconsistent so far. But they do have LeBaron Johnson, who's pretty solid. But this is also interesting where the over-under is at 16 here. I think you're getting some value by an under. So some of these early games are over inflating to the over. This time, I think that this line's a bit too high. Texas did just blow a game big time against Vandy last week, and but usually they're historically a pretty good pitching team. But I like Texas Tech at home in a rivalry game.
All right, let's move on to another Texas team here with Texas State. They are hosting Sam Houston.
Yeah, this is more of a model play right here, where we like Texas State because they're better at home. Minus 140 is just good value. I think we'd set it closer to minus 180, minus 200. So you're just getting value on a pretty good Texas State team that actually beat Texas earlier in the season.
There you go. And then maybe a good chance of parlaying these two, get a little closer to plus money. We're feeling crazy.
If you're feeling crazy, if you're feeling a little risky, you might as well.
All right. Those are plenty of college baseball plays. Let's move on to one college basketball play here. We have Elon covering the spread against Hampton.
Yeah, it's our favorite model play today. We actually had some value on. I need to check what's going on in the Radford game. We had good value on Radford. They were killing them early against High Point. Now High Point has taken the lead. But maybe Radford still covers 12.5, but we couldn't get that play in because of the timing of the podcast. But I like Elon and the model likes Elon because of both the neutral site games, like the conference tournaments. You want to look at how these teams do on the road, and Elon's a better 3-point shooting team. So we have a pretty big disparity in 3-point shooting in favor of Elon.
Mm-hmm. A couple questions in the chat about Mercer here, hosting the Citadel, I believe it is. First half -2, and then also the spread just 3.5 in general.
All right, pull up the model.
Steven with some live value here on the under in the Radford High Point game. Love to see the live action.
Yeah, yesterday we had a nice live bet on the South Alabama game. I got a little close to the end, but the one book, that's why you get a lot of value looking at the odds share. The one book, it was 154 at half, and it ended at 147, and most books were 151.5. So you're getting some good value if you odds shop. But I don't mind Mercer here. We have him winning by 3, but I don't mind that play at all.
All right. Good stuff there. Any more college questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll head over to the Friday NBA slate. We got, I think, a play for every single game here, and I'm still on the hunt for my 20 into 500 play as well. So, Steven, let's bring you in here. We'll start at the top of the slate with Charlotte headed to Washington. Washington 3-point home favorites here.
Yeah, so the model really likes Charlotte against the spread, basically because Washington obviously doesn't win in 16 straight games. I think they're only 6-10 against the spread. So that's something to consider. The line I like from a player standpoint is Bilal Koulibaly, I think he was Wemby's teammate in France.
Yeah,
you get plus money on over half a block, and just so overall this season, even with his not major minutes at the start of the season, he averages 0.8 solid over under. It's especially solid when he has 30 plus minutes. 17-6. So one of the local reporters, according to RoadWire, reported that back from injury recently, he should get all the run he can handle, but he's not a heavy usage guy, so he's there for his defense. And the last month, his average has been low, but that's been due to some games where he played, got hurt. I think after just a few minutes. So I think that's depressed the line a little bit, and you can buy low on that.
All right. I like the plus money plays. Maybe I just have to take the chance, but sweating out a block bet, putting all my money on it is a really scary thing. But I do.
We're talking that there has to be something with the scorekeepers in France because they play on the same team, but their block totals are so much lower than they are in the NBA. Like Wemby averaged just over 1 block in last year in France, which just doesn't make sense given he's 7'4" and he's blocking everything in the NBA. And Koulibaly averaging close to 1. So something going on with the scorekeeping or something it's very interesting.
The French.
The French scorekeepers, they're not giving credit to these guys. Just maybe like Jaren Jackson Jr. getting over credit.
Maybe they play off like plus 200 on overs. They have a screwed up betting system.
I could see that. All right, let's move on to New Orleans, headed to the sad Philadelphia 76ers. We had some awesome value on CJ McCollum earlier today at plus money to get over 3.5 assists. It's since steamed a ton. So again, like Steven said, always look out on our Twitter. If we see things that seem like act now, we'll likely be putting them on Twitter since we'll be moving to a 5 o'clock show. But we still like CJ McCollum over his assists as well.
Yeah, I was kind of bummed to see it go from plus money to minus 125 is the best price. And then, I think Mackenzie, you played it out like Caesars we went from from plus money to like minus 175 in the blink of an eye. So this is all about whether he plays minutes. New Orleans does have a good team. When they play well, they really can cream teams. And so last few games, McCollum's number's been down because they've due to blowouts. But I just think Philadelphia, just, with their injuries, they got kind of embarrassed at home by Memphis. I'm hoping that just effort alone keeps this game within range, and McCollum gets his normal 30-plus minutes because he's a lock. I say, obviously there's no such thing. He's a lock if he's 71% over if he plays 30-plus minutes. And I'm hoping there's at least a 60% chance he gets that 30-plus. That's paying off as if he has less, was paying off as if he had less than a 50% chance.
A ton of people have been talking about Zion today, even in our chat as well. Do we have any value on him to have a big night?
We're projecting a pretty standard night for him. So it's all about what you can shop, if you can shop around. We have 32.5 points, rebounds, assists. His line's 33.5, I think.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then I had a question about Kyle Lowry from the chat. His PRA line's 20.5.
Yeah.
I can read it here.
We like under as well. I was almost picked that, but then I felt, I got scared off. He missed his last game after having a big game when Maxey was out the night before. Cam Payne got the minutes and did okay, but he didn't get huge minutes. But he took a lot of shots. So I don't know if the team will look to go back to Lowry or think Payne's 6 for 17 was effective.
What's the Pelicans' defense like? I don't really think I know too much about their defense other than all I know about them is Trey Murphy.
They have some obviously long defenders, and they have really good defenders, individual defenders. On the road, they hold teams pretty good. They defend the three well overall and on the road. Their interior defense against 2-point shots is not as good on the road. They don't block a ton of shots, which is actually maybe a sign of playing good defense in many cases.
Mm-hmm.
They don't turn the ball over.
Yeah. How do we feel about Trey Murphy tonight?
All depends on what his line is. I mean, he's had some ridiculously huge games recently, coming off a 10-14 night and 34 and 28 his last two games. Who can tell with that guy?
Yeah. I don't know. 28.
I don't know if he's gonna. Yeah, I'm not gonna. He should be wide open, and I don't know who on Philly's going to stick with him because he is a superior athlete in addition to being a great shooter when he's.
You can get his boards at 4.5 plus money.
Yeah. We have him 4.5 exactly.
All right, let's move on here. I don't think I see any other questions for this game. Let's go to Minnesota headed to Cleveland. Another game I was looking at a lot. Jared Allen, someone we like, 16.5 points. I know this is steamed to 17.5 in most spots. Do we still like it at 17.5?
Yeah, we're projecting 19, and it's unfortunate. It was the same book, 16.5 for like minus 110 earlier. Positive home splits, even with when the team has healthy Evan Mobley. But with Mobley dealing with his injury, and then obviously Donovan Mitchell's out, Strus is out. So Minnesota's defense is number one in the league, but they do allow considerably more points on the road versus home, and they're playing it back-to-back. Then even with all these factors, Jared Allen's last 12, solid 9 and 3 over. This
seems like who else is going to score? Like it has to be him, right? Who am I missing?
Yeah, Garland. Well, I mean, the other night I was looking at for Niang's line as well. I mean, these are not guys, but they have, Dean Wade got red hot in that Boston game. Niang hit some nice shots. He's been 3 for 4 for threes the last two games. So I don't see his lines posted yet.
Derek said Edwards is a game time decision here, which
that's interesting. That could be good. I guess he hit his head on the rim when he blocked that shot last night. So maybe he got hurt there. Yeah. If only once I would know what that's like.
That was pretty awesome. Okay, we can move on here to Orlando headed to New York. This is a really interesting game to me because I feel like the Magic are just playing a little too well. Like at some point, there's got to be a regression here, but New York is just hurt.
Yeah. So Brunson, obviously the steam moving from New York minus 1.5 to plus 1.5 is the assumption that Brunson may be out, and we still have Brunson because of the official injury designation hasn't ruled him out, and we like to keep questionable players in there, but obviously I wouldn't buy too much into the New York value given until we know what Brunson's deal is. I'm going to go with Wendell Carter Jr. Over 18.5. I thought I was being much more clever this morning when the line was 17.5. I thought I was getting fancy because loyal viewers, which again, not a lot of you, but I think the ones who are viewing are loyal, know that I picked Wendell Carter 2 days ago when the line was 20.5 because he has some nice positive splits on the road. And he ended up sitting with left knee soreness that game. When I woke up this morning, I saw 17.5. I was like, oh, nice. He got 3, the line went down by 3 for no reason, right? So, because of the one thing that teams are doing these days is they're either playing a guy or they're not, right? They're not reducing minutes if they're dealing with an injury, especially when you're deep on the front court like Orlando. So we have model value at 20.5, which is basically what he averages. The local reporters say he should reclaim his starting spot from Goga Badatse. He's got great road trends, great recent trends, great trends versus New York. And the Knicks defense is just allowing a ton of points, except for a few notable exceptions of a 98, a 96, and a 105. Teams have been pretty consistently in the certainly above 110, but even in the 115 and up.
Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on Banchero here over 21.5 points? I thought about this play myself.
We had him at 20 points, so hopefully not if it means Carter can get more.
Mm-hmm. And then I think there's a question about Gary Harris, too. Big Cheesy thinks him over 7.5 points is a layup.
We have him at 7.6, so 0.1 is good enough for a layup to me, too.
We don't disagree. My favorite one.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on here. We have a few more plays to get through before we get out of here. We'll head to Atlanta, going to Memphis. This is likely the game where my money will be spent, somewhere in the Clint Capella, Sadiq Bey territory. Yeah,
it hasn't. I think Mackenzie's been working with us for like 8 months, 7 months.
Yeah.
So in that time, you've devolved into this, like seeking assists from backup forwards and guards on the Atlanta Hawks to try to make your money. It's a weird. I don't know if that's career progression or devolution.
Listen, I have learned this league inside out relative to what I would have if I wasn't part of this crew. Like the people I know and bet on are guys I would not even know existed if I wasn't for this team. So definitely increasing my knowledge of the game here.
So I'm going to go with a simpler one with Clint Capella over 22.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Really not happy that Jalen Johnson's out because I like him as a player, but he is out. And he's got some major production. And Okongwu, their backup center, who is playing well at times this year, he's also been out. So Capella is should have a major presence and plenty of minutes out of necessity. Even with a healthy lineup, he's got very positive road splits at this number. And then I looked it up. Jaren Jackson's been a beast. He got hurt, but he's had like 30-plus point games in between and since. And Capella plays really well against Jackson. I don't know about defensively, but offensively, he puts up huge numbers in 7 games versus Jaren Jackson, 20, 13, and nearly 2 assists. So that's a pretty big sample size for a young player like Jaren Jackson Jr., who hasn't been in the league that long.
Mm-hmm. Can we take a look at Clint Capella's assist streak? Because I'm thinking about taking him over 1.5 assists at plus 210.
I mean, he's been Magic Johnson recently, 3 and 2 in 23, 25, and 24 minutes.
Do you think that's a correlation to Trae Young at all? Like, what is this something I can count on?
Perhaps, they only have one true ball handler, and everyone else is catch and shoot. Bogdanovich has rediscovered his stroke, which is nice. So, just sort of like Bam yesterday dishing out to an open three-pointer. That you get that. Hunter's a spot-up shooter. Bay's more of a slasher, but, you don't have a lot of guys who are dribbling to death and blowing assist opportunities. And Murray likes to be efficient too. So, I think that it is like a case where a pass Capella can pass it to an open guy, and the ones who are open are spot-up shooters more than slashers.
Okay. I think I'm sold. It'll make my life a lot easier if I just stick with one pick. All right. We got to just get away from this game before I start overthinking. Let's head over to Miami, headed to OKC. Slate's team on Oklahoma here, and the under, considering Miami's played back-to-back games. We are taking Chet. We're kind of keeping him on the S list. We're just
I
way.
guess I was a little lucky. Siakam I used similar logic as the other day when I had Siakam at over 1.5 because game flow wise, he could play poorly and turn the ball over multiple times. Or if it's a blowout win, they could turn it over just, trying to get fancy. Maybe, you try to do something because you're up big and you want to entertain the home crowd. And Oklahoma City's, do they have the best record in the West, or are they still tied? But they're a very good team, and especially at home. And Chet's played great at home, but it also results in a very high turnover average and a high over rate because he's when you're playing well and things are going well, the ball's in your hands. So I like the fact that he turns the ball over more at home, even playing well or playing poorly. I'm also fading the fact that he has 4 straight unders. Never had 5 straight games with under 2 turnovers. So this would be the first time in his career. Obviously not a long career. Bam is a really great defender, and he's been getting a lot of steals recently. 18 steals in 13 games is pretty good production from your center. So I'm thinking that, if he's got Chet on the ball, that he can get a steal there, and then one sloppy play from Chet, maybe trying to get too fancy. This is the Mackenzie Brooks revenge game where the man who delivered, Bam, checking the man who did not.
This day would be so different if I had hit those 2 parlays.
Yeah.
That's all right. So Clint Capella is going to save the day. All right, let's move on. This will be a great game. Milwaukee headed to the Lakers, essentially a pick-em. We've seen this team kind of bounce back and forth here, but we do have LeBron, and we like him to have a block and a steal. Yeah.
I think the line's moving to Milwaukee because Anthony Davis is a game time decision. It sounds like I think he sounds like a real risk to miss. So that's why now he's in our lineup, slightly reduced, but that's why we favor the Lakers still in the model. But that'll change if Anthony Davis is out. Going with this LeBron 1.5 over blocks and steals because it's almost even money. Now, I am fading a pretty strong negative home split where the under is 18-14 and his average is considerably lower than it is in road games. Not sure why that would be. Maybe it's still like
maybe negative home averages, though. I feel like that's fine.
I figure that maybe he does get a chance to sit more when they play better at home, and something to that degree. But I don't know. He's been on a kind of a block drought recently. So he's only had 1 steal the last 2 games. But before that, he was on actually a nice little tear of steals and blocks, an 11-2 run. And then forwards who average a similar 1.5 to 2 blocks and steals, for maybe a lot of reasons, they average only 1.3 with a 6 and 17 over at Milwaukee. But when Milwaukee is the visiting team, they average 1.8 with a 13-9 over. And these forwards coming in are 8 and 2 over versus Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm. All right. I see Jake's going to start running the live sim for the Indiana State game shortly. We'll see what happens in that. But let's keep it in the NBA for now. I think one more game to get through. Yep. Yeah, one more game to get through. We'll head over to Houston, going to Portland. Jabari Smith, someone we've enjoyed fading, but maybe this is a bounce back spot for him and a good spot for some plus money action. Yeah,
Houston, Portland's got a lot of injured players besides the ones we know who are out, like Brogdon, who's one of their obviously best perimeter defenders. Then you have Ayton is probably out. And even though he's not a great defender, he still is, he takes a lot of your attention and he's still got height and can block a shot or 2. And then Grant, I think there's 3 other rotation players who are true game time decisions. Mm-hmm. So Houston is favored by quite a bit. And the model has 1.6 made threes, which is really good at plus 118 available. This was plus 120, so maybe coming down slightly. I am fading this negative road split. He definitely shoots better at home. But I'm banking more on his recent stretch where he's played well. He's been averaging over 2 makes a game. And I also like because Portland isn't a great defensive team, and especially with their injuries, recently they've been allowing opposition to shoot a high percentage on threes, 41, 39, 38, 38, and 54. So that's kind of – and in the rare games where Houston's a heavy favorite, especially on the road, Jabari Smith has had big games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I might need personally a break from the 3-point props after this week. I feel like it's been an emotional roller coaster for me, highs and lows from the 3-point line.
When the one make is there and then you see that shot go off and it's like a long arcing.
It's more nauseating than watching them miss a 3. Like
yeah,
I just
Yeah, that happened to me with KCP last night, because he had this one that he missed. I think he was like 1 for 2, and then the last 2 were just not good.
Real quick, a question in the chat about Brook Lopez. If you want to go back to that Milwaukee game, his PRA set to 17.5.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we have him at 17.3. I'm wondering if there's a better price on him because, the PRA for, let's see if this loads fast. Not particularly.
I can find it.
But anyway, we wouldn't have value at 17.5, but maybe you can find 16.5 at spot.
Points, rebounds, assists. I am not seeing. A lot of books are off. DraftKings is off it right now. Yeah, I just see 17.5 at -105. You can get an ESPN bet.
Now, Giannis was a game time decision against Golden State the other night. Is he still dealing with something? Is he still up in the air? Brook Lopez on OddsJam still says 16.5 at -125 on DraftKings. So that's a pretty steep price. I like Brook Lopez's revenge game against LA. He wanted to stay there. They didn't want him. He was really good.
I just like betting on Brook Lopez. He's on my what's the opposite of our S list? Our good list?
Yeah.
We'll work on that. Yeah. All right. It looks like all the questions and all we have time for today. I'll throw up the recap screen here quick. Again, just a reminder, on Monday, we will start at the 5:00 p.m. hour. Will be fun with a lot of live betting as we get into March Madness, as I've mentioned. But again, if there are things we think you need to act on, we will put them on Twitter. So make sure you're following all of us. Make sure you're following Derek for the injury updates and things like that. Giannis with an Achilles injury, which is probable. Didn't know that. Thank you, Derek. Example A. All right. With that, good. Oh, you want to give this live sim a chance, Jake, before we head out of here? Sorry, I have you muted.
Let me share my screen real quick, but I'm running the live sim right now at the under 12 timeout.
Everybody's hammering a live bet on Indiana State. There are Cinderella.
I gotta run the Sycamores right now. Blurry blurred.
Now, keep in mind, I do default the live sim model to use the pre-game odds and not our actual projection odds. So if we had pre-game projection value on Indiana State, and what we want to do is we alter them based on what we want to do. We don't want to just like live bet blind. So, ideally we'd be watching this game closely. Make that full screen. Are you on your laptop?
I am on my laptop.
I made this bigger so you could.
It's not showing up.
No,
you can see a little bit, but I made it
so a little value on Indiana State minus 12.5 live.
What's the score right now?
8-12 Indiana State.
All right, yeah.
All right, everybody, smash. We're taking the Sycamores minus the 12.5 group live bet. It only gets better from here, guys. The 5:00 hour is going to be dangerous.
Yeah, the pregame spread was 12, and they're only getting a half point. They're up by 4. They're pacing for a 16-point win.
Bang. All right. Good luck with your bets this weekend, everyone. Please feel free to reach out to us on Twitter as always, and we will see you guys at 5:00 on Monday.